You are listening to the 5 Squared Podcast, the podcast where we bring you tips for your business and your life. Our goal is to leave you smarter with ideas, wisdom, tools, and entertained. The 5 Squared Podcast is produced weekly for your enrichment. Come back often and feel free to add the podcast to your favorite RSS feed or iTunes. You can also follow me on Twitter at 5 Squared and Facebook. All the links are in the show notes. Now let's get started with your host, business consultant, executive coach, and founder of 5 Squared, Tim Fives.
Welcome back, everybody. Hope everybody's having a great week. We are going to be talking about how to measure your business. And I've had the pleasure this week of working with some of my clients on this very topic, and I thought it was timely that we chat about this beginning of the year. And I want to talk about measuring success, right? And just how do we set that up in the business sense? When we look at things, I like to look at, well, I think a concept that many of you have heard about, leading and lagging indicators. And if you think about this in the simplest terms, and we'll get into some examples. A leading indicator is really measuring the input into your business, and the lagging indicator is the output. So what I find that many times is that a lot of companies sit down and they say, all right, we're going to look at the bottom line, we're going to look at net profit, margins, things like that, and those are all lagging indicators of how the business performed. And rarely what they do is look at those leading things of saying, hey, how is the business going to perform? And so we'll run you through a few examples here. So when we look at your KPIs, your key performance indicators, the first thing to really do is to narrow down what those key performance indicators for your business are. Looking at things like sales, number of leads coming in, number of new products, all the proactive things that need to happen so that you can drive revenue. Those are really your leading indicators and are going to give you a good sense of what's to come. So if you need 10 leads to generate one sale, leading indicator would be number of leads. How many are coming in the simplest form. If you need to drive more profit and revenue, new product offerings, make sure you're tracking how many new products are going out the door that are being developed, that are in the pipeline, things like that. Drug companies do that a lot to make sure that they've got enough to fill their revenue over a long term. The next thing, so once you determine the KPIs and both leading and lagging, then you got to define the benchmark, right? What is, and this is a step that a lot of companies miss. They say, all right, here's my leading and lagging, I know what they are, but where should I be, right? And you can model this out. It's pretty simple to do. It's a little thing I like to call math. I don't use that newfangled math they use in schools. Common Core, I like to use, put in a spreadsheet, add, subtract. I'm good at it. But you really take a hard look at where you are, and then where you need to be, and start measuring against that. And that's really the third thing, is the monitoring. But coming up with that baseline, that second step, the baseline is a very important thing, because you need to know where you're tracking, where you're starting from, if you're already behind in some areas, so that you can start to make up ground on that. One of the things that I really enjoy doing is putting balanced scorecards together and measuring and doing this for companies. And it's fantastic to watch as things happen throughout the organization, that you can start to reward people on those leading indicators. Most companies look at rewarding people on revenue and, hey, how was it done at the end of the year? But this is another tactic to incentivize employees to say, make sure you're getting the things done that's going to lead to profitability, not just measured at the end. So let's talk about some examples. When we talk about the steps to defining some of your indicators, one of the things that we recommend is, there's no one way to define your key performance indicators. And I think this is some trap that companies get into is, hey, what's my competition doing? I've lived this with some of my past companies that were obsessed about what the competition was doing. And I'm always a fan of take care of your own business. You take care of your own business, competition will take care of itself. So really, when you look at a combination of leading and lagging indicators, it's specific to your company, to your growth, and to your vision. Second thing that I look at is review this in your strategic planning process. What particular assessments, various questions are you asking to pull these out? Again, this isn't something that you can just go to the website and Google it and pull these out. These should be part of your strategic planning process, and it should be reviewed quarterly at a minimum, making sure that your indicators are up to date, and that there's not something else that you should be measuring that has a critical impact on your business. Review your strategy map, your roadmap, your plans, and identify the key areas of focus. So if you're a product-based company, obviously, and you need to have products coming out, gotta make sure that that's a focus for your business. If you're a consulting firm, looking at the projects in the pipeline, making sure that that's part of your review cycle is pivotal. Step out of your core management team and go down into the trenches. See what they're doing. Get a good handle on that. Get additional leadership. Get some external business stakeholders involved. Outside perspective can often help determine what your indicators should be. Again, sometimes we get a little too close to the forest to see the trees. I think that's how that goes. But anyway, you get the point. The other thing I'll say about your leading indicators is to choose them carefully. Leading indicators should be unique to your business environment. It's huge. They originate from your key strategic initiatives, and pardon me, and ultimately used to drive your business. And then the last thing is, you got to train your leadership team to keep an eye on these as well. Those are kind of the steps that I like to go through for looking at managing this. Now, the other question I get a lot is Tim, how many of these should I have? And I think in total, with leading and lagging, no more than 7, 3 to 4, 3 to 5 each. But if you get too many, then you're going to get distracted. So keep it simple. Keep them defined to your business. Measure them. Get a baseline. Where are you today? Where do you need to be successful? And then monitor them throughout the year. One of the examples that I'll give, we've just wrapped up a pretty sizable project and did this for a company. We went in and started looking at where the company's benchmark should be in their segment. And we put a scale together for them to say, hey, for your type of company, your utilization, for your type of products and things, this is where you need to be. And, it was very illuminating. So in their case, one of the ones that we pulled out was sales per employee as a lagging indicator. And that was fantastic because it showed the capacity of their organization and how not behind it was, but how much capacity was left in the organization to take on. One of the things that I tell people when we put these together, there's not one magical indicator. It's the combination of these. You're creating almost a heat map, almost a sense of well-being across multiple indicators. So, don't fixate on one. It's the combination of them working together. So in the case of this company, we looked at project utilization or billable utilization. We looked at the sales per employee. We looked at project margin. We looked at net profit, right? So those as lagging indicators really gave us a tremendous view of how the business is operating. And then we benchmarked it against what their industry said they should be at and what they should be able to do and achieve. And then we saw where the gaps were. They weren't fully, didn't have great project margins. So we were putting a plan in place to improve the efficiencies within their organization. And now you start to see how those things are going to start to attack the lagging indicators and bring the numbers up. On the leading indicator side, we started to look at those things that said, all right, we know what the output is, but let's go back to the input. And, it's leads. It's number of jobs and the size of the jobs in their case. Like those were the two big things. If they can fill the pipe, then we'll have the engine to run that. So simple model, but it's very important for that company. We were excited to help them and get them in there and get them over the hump.
Thank you so much for listening to the show with your host, Tim Fives. We hope you will pass along our web address, fivesquared.com, to your friends and colleagues. Be sure to check out our archive section on our website for previous podcasts. Follow us on Twitter at 5Squared or follow us on Facebook. This has been a 5 Squared production. Join us next time for another edition of the 5 Squared Podcast.